I used to think I had it all figured out. When I was younger, I had big dreams. I was going to make a name for myself. Big job, nice house, a family, everything would fall into place. It seemed so simple back then. I had a plan, and all I had to do was follow it. But somewhere along the way, things got off track. I'm not sure when it happened, but one day you wake up and realize life hasn't turned out like you thought it would. I look in the mirror, and I don't see the guy I used to be, the guy who believed in all those dreams. Now, I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm stuck in this job that barely pays the bills, and every day feels the same. It's like I'm treading water. I tell myself it's just temporary, but it's been years. I used to have this fire inside me, this belief that I could achieve anything. But now, I'm just surviving. I don't know how it all went wrong. Was it the job? The choices I made? Or was it just life? Getting older, watching the years slip by, realizing that all those dreams I had don't seem so attainable anymore? I'm not where I thought I'd be at 50. I'm not who I thought I'd be. I should have been further along, right? But instead, I feel like I'm stuck in this cycle, working, paying bills, living day to day. There's no grand vision anymore, just trying to make it through the week. And then there's Sarah. When we first met, I thought maybe, just maybe, she was the answer. She was everything I thought I wanted. Beautiful, smart, funny. I wanted to be the guy she could depend on. But lately, I've been wondering, am I really that guy? The guy who can give her the life she deserves? I feel like I'm letting her down. She deserves someone who can give her more than what I have. Someone who's got it together. Someone who can offer her a future. But I'm not that guy. Not anymore. I've been working so hard to keep up with this idea of success, but at what cost? I've lost touch with the things that really matter. I'm too focused on getting by, on paying the bills, that I've forgotten how to live. Maybe it's too late for me. Maybe I've missed my chance. But that's the thing. Do I even want to change anymore? Or am I just stuck in this rut, afraid of taking that first step, because I don't know where it'll lead? All I know is that I'm tired of feeling like I'm not enough. Like I'm not enough for her. I've spent so many years chasing something I can't even name anymore. I guess the question is, can I turn this around? Or is this the life I'm stuck with? I remember when I was younger, I had this image in my head of what my life would look like. I had it all mapped out. I'd climb the ladder, work hard, and in a few years I'd have it all. Respect, wealth, everything. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I thought if I just kept my head down, stayed focused, I'd get there. But now I look around, and it's like I'm living in someone else's story. Nothing feels like it was supposed to. It's not even about the money or the career anymore. Yeah, that was part of the dream, but what really gets to me is that I'm not where I thought I'd be. I'm just stuck. I used to think I was going to be this successful guy, making an impact, doing something meaningful. But now, every day feels the same. The same office. The same endless meetings. The same spreadsheets that don't even matter. It's like I've built this life, but I don't recognize any of it. I remember looking at people I worked with, my colleagues, my mentors, and I thought they've got it all figured out. They've made it. I wanted to be like them. I wanted that confidence, that stability. But instead, I'm just here. I didn't expect it to be easy. Hell, I didn't expect it to be glamorous. But I thought I'd have some sense of purpose by now. Something to show for the years of hard work. Instead, I wake up every morning just dreading the day. When I was younger, I believed in something. I believed in my ability to make it happen. But now, I don't know where that belief went. It's like it's been chipped away little by little until I've got nothing left but this lingering doubt. I've been stuck in this job, this routine, for too long. It's not even the job itself, it's just that I can't shake the feeling that I'm wasting time. I don't know how to get out. Maybe I'm too scared to try. I don't know anymore, and Sarah, she doesn't deserve this. She deserves someone who's got a direction, a plan. Someone who can give her what she wants. And I? I don't even know if I want what I thought I wanted anymore. I don't know how I got here, but it feels like I've missed the boat. And I don't know if I can get back on board. Maybe I'm just too late. Maybe I missed my chance. But there's this nagging feeling, this voice inside me, that keeps telling me I can turn it around. But how? How do you fix a life that feels so broken? I still remember the first time I met Sarah. It was one of those moments you never forget. I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't looking for anything. But when she walked into that cafe, it felt like everything else faded away. I've always believed in love, you know? But I didn't expect it to feel like this. I didn't expect it to feel so right. Sarah was different from anyone I'd ever met. She was confident, sure of herself, and kind. She had this energy, this warmth that just drew me in. I didn't know it at the time, but meeting her would change everything. We started talking, just casually at first. I didn't think much of it, just a conversation between two people passing time. But the more we talked, the more I realized something was shifting inside me. Something I hadn't felt in a long time, hope. I'd been so focused on trying to fix my life, trying to hold everything together, that I didn't even know I was missing connection. But with Sarah, it felt different. She made me feel like I could be more than just a guy stuck in a dead-end job. She made me believe that maybe, just maybe, I could still have a future. I found myself looking forward to every moment we spent together. The way she smiled when she talked about her dreams, the way she laughed at my bad jokes, it all felt real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. Like maybe I wasn't as lost as I thought. But even as things started to get serious between us, that old feeling started creeping back in. The one that tells me I'm not enough. The one that tells me I'm never going to be the man she deserves. I felt it every time I looked at her. She deserved someone who could give her the life she wanted, the future she deserved. Someone who had their life together. And I wasn't that guy. I knew I had to make a decision. Because as much as I wanted to be with her, I couldn't ignore the fact that I was still stuck. Still trapped in this job that drained me, still not able to offer her anything real. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was holding her back. I didn't want to be the guy who disappointed her. The guy who couldn't give her what she needed. But I couldn't shake the thought, what if she really is the one? What if I'm the one who's holding myself back? I had to let her go. I had to do what I thought was best for both of us. Even though it hurt. Even though I didn't know if I could ever find someone like her again. I kept telling myself it was for the best. That she deserved better than me. It wasn't just about money or status. It wasn't even about the career, really. It was the feeling of being stuck. Of being small. The feeling that I was always going to be this guy. The guy who's just getting by. Who's barely making it. And every time I looked at Sarah, I couldn't shake the thought, she deserves someone who has it together. Someone who can give her the kind of life she wants, the kind of future she's dreaming of. I thought about all the other guys she could be with. Guys who had their stuff together. Guys who could offer her everything she could possibly want. Why would she settle for me? Why would she settle for a guy who's too afraid to take risks, too afraid to change? The thing is, it wasn't just about her. It was about me too. Deep down, I think I knew I was sabotaging myself. I was so afraid of failing that I'd been avoiding doing anything at all. I'd been avoiding facing the truth, and the truth was I was scared. Scared of what might happen if I took the leap, if I really went after what I wanted. I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to let myself down. And that fear, it paralyzed me. It made me pull away from everything. From her. From my own life. I kept telling myself, she deserves better. She deserves someone who can give her more. But honestly, the more I told myself that, the more I started to believe it. What I didn't realize was, by telling myself I wasn't enough, I was making myself less than I was. And I was losing sight of what truly mattered. But that's the problem with fear, isn't it? It doesn't just stop with one thing, it starts to creep into every part of your life. It becomes a loop. And the more I feared not being enough for Sarah, the more I convinced myself I couldn't be enough for anyone, let alone her. I knew I had to do it. It wasn't something I wanted, but it felt like the only way forward. Sarah deserved someone who could give her a future, and I wasn't that guy. It was time to face the reality of it. We sat across from each other at that cafe, just like the first time we met. It felt like a lifetime ago. The difference was, I wasn't smiling anymore. I wasn't excited about the future. I felt defeated. I don't think she knew what was coming. I didn't want to hurt her. Hell, I didn't even want to do it in the first place. But I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. I couldn't keep lying to her, and I couldn't keep lying to myself. I think we need to break up, I said. The words didn't come out easily. They hung in the air, heavy and final. She stared at me for a moment, almost like she didn't hear me. Then she asked, why? Her voice wasn't angry, just confused. I could see the hurt in her eyes, and it tore me apart. I'm not the man you deserve, I told her. I knew it sounded cliché, but it was the truth. I wasn't the guy she needed. I was stuck in my own life, buried in my own problems, and I couldn't offer her anything more than what I already had. And she deserved more than that. She deserved someone who could offer her a future, someone who could be a partner. I wasn't that guy. She didn't argue. She didn't beg me to stay. Instead, she just nodded. There was this quiet sadness in her eyes, but also something else, understanding. And that broke me. It was like she already knew. She knew the truth even before I said it. I understand, she said softly. But I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you either, I whispered. But I can't keep holding you back. There was this silence between us, and in that silence, I realized I was doing the right thing. But it didn't feel right. It felt painful. It felt like I was cutting off a part of myself, and yet deep down, I knew it was the only choice I had left. She didn't say much after that. She just stood up, gave me a quiet nod, and walked out of the cafe. And I watched her go. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely alone. But it wasn't just sadness that I felt. It was guilt. A weight of guilt that settled on me and didn't let go. Had I made the right choice? Had I done the right thing? I didn't know. All I knew was that I had to move on. I had to figure out my life, and I couldn't do that while holding on to something that wasn't working. But leaving her, it hurt. And that hurt? It stayed with me long after she was gone. The next day, everything felt different. I woke up, and the world just seemed quieter. The air was the same, but there was this weight in my chest, this dull ache that wouldn't go away. I kept replaying that moment in the cafe over and over, her face, her eyes. She hadn't begged me to stay, but I could still hear her voice in my head. I don't want to lose you. But I didn't want to lose her either. And I felt like a coward for walking away. I tried to keep busy, go to work, make calls, keep my mind occupied. But no matter how much I tried to distract myself, I couldn't shake that feeling. That feeling that maybe I'd made the wrong choice. That maybe I wasn't ready to let go of everything we built. Even though it felt like the only thing left to do, I thought I'd feel relief. I thought breaking up with Sarah would take some weight off my shoulders. But instead, all I felt was emptiness. And then, just like that, out of nowhere, I ran into her. It wasn't some big planned moment, no dramatic music or slow motion. I was walking down the street, lost in my own thoughts, when I looked up and saw her. And she wasn't alone. She was with a guy. A man I didn't recognize. He was laughing, his arm around her shoulder, and she was smiling. She looked happy. I couldn't believe it. After everything I had convinced myself of, everything I thought I'd lost, I saw her with someone else. And I just stood there, frozen. For a moment, I thought maybe I was imagining it. But then, I saw her look at me. Our eyes met for a second, and I could see it in her face. There was no anger, no bitterness. Just this calm acceptance. She was moving on. She had moved on. And that hit me harder than I thought it would. I watched them walk off together, and I couldn't help but feel like an idiot. I'd spent all this time telling myself I wasn't good enough for her, that I couldn't give her what she needed. And here she was, with someone who was giving her exactly what I couldn't. And she looked happy. Really happy. That's when it hit me. I had been so wrapped up in my own fears, my own doubts, that I hadn't been able to see the bigger picture. I had convinced myself that I was holding her back, that I was the reason she couldn't have the life she wanted. But the truth was that I was the one who wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to change, to fight for what I wanted, to take the leap. But I also realized something else. True love isn't about sacrificing yourself for someone else. It's about being the best version of yourself for them. It's about standing beside them, whole and ready, not as a broken version of yourself. And maybe that's the lesson I needed to learn. I couldn't give Sarah what she deserved if I wasn't willing to give myself the chance to grow. If I wasn't willing to face my own fears, to make the changes I needed to make for myself, then I would never be able to give anyone anything real. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me. And if I wanted a shot at anything real in the future, I had to start with myself. I had to change. Not for Sarah. Not for anyone else. But for me. I walked around for hours that day. My mind was buzzing with all the things I'd been avoiding, the fears, the mistakes, the what-ifs that had been holding me back. I couldn't shake the image of Sarah with her new guy. Part of me wanted to be angry, to feel betrayed, but I knew that wasn't the issue. The truth was, I wasn't mad at her. I was mad at myself. I'd spent so much time worrying about what I couldn't offer her that I never once considered what I could offer myself. I had been so focused on fixing everything for her, on giving her this perfect future, that I completely ignored the fact that I needed to fix me first. I was so afraid of failing her that I never realized I was already failing myself. That day, as I wandered the streets, something clicked. It wasn't a big, dramatic moment, no huge epiphany or light bulb moment. But there was this shift inside me, like I could finally see things for what they were. I didn't need to be perfect. I didn't need to have all the answers or all the money or all the status. I just needed to be real. And I needed to take control of my life. Not for Sarah, not for anyone else, but for me. I realized then that I had been hiding behind my own excuses. I don't have enough money. I'm not successful enough. I don't know what I want. But those were just excuses. Deep down, I knew I could make changes. I knew I could fight for a better life. But I'd been so paralyzed by the fear of not being enough that I never even gave myself the chance. And it was like a weight had been lifted off me. I didn't have to have it all figured out right now. I didn't need to have all the answers. I just needed to start. I needed to take the first step, and that's where it all begins. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Change never is. But I also knew I couldn't keep living in this rut, telling myself I wasn't good enough. I was enough. I just had to believe it. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Not because everything had fallen into place, but because I finally understood something. I didn't need to wait for the perfect moment. I didn't need to be someone else. I just needed to stop hiding and start living. It was a slow realization, a quiet one. But it was the start of something real. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could actually take control of my future. The hardest part isn't making the decision to change, it's taking the first step. I'd spent so much time thinking about what I needed to do, planning for the future, that I hadn't actually done anything. All my energy had been focused on worrying about what I wasn't, instead of what I could become. But that moment of clarity hit me hard. It wasn't about waiting for the perfect opportunity, or trying to be someone I wasn't. It was about doing what I could with what I had right now. No more waiting. No more excuses. So, I started small. I quit complaining about my job and started looking for ways to make it better. I didn't have to quit overnight. What I needed was to find meaning in what I was doing, to take ownership of my time and energy. And that meant stepping up at work, being proactive, even if it felt uncomfortable. It meant not letting the small things pile up into bigger problems, but tackling them head on, one at a time. I also reached out to some old friends. People I'd been meaning to reconnect with but had put off for years. I realized I'd been so focused on surviving that I'd let go of all the things that once made me happy. I'd let my social life slip away, neglected the relationships that used to lift me up. So I called them up, made plans, and started showing up. I went to the gym again, something I hadn't done in months. The physical act of pushing myself felt good. I didn't have to have a perfect body, but I needed to feel strong again. I needed to remind myself that I was capable of more than just getting by. And in all of this, I noticed a shift. It was subtle at first, but it was real. I was beginning to take ownership of my life again. I wasn't just reacting to circumstances. I was creating my own path. I wasn't waiting for some magical moment to happen. I was making things happen. And the more I made these small changes, the more I realized that I wasn't just fixing my career or my social life or my body. I was fixing myself. All the little decisions, all the small actions, were stacking up, and for the first time in a long time, I could see the person I was becoming. But there was one thing I hadn't anticipated: Sarah. I hadn't seen her since that day at the cafe. And as I started to make these changes, I started to wonder, did she notice? Did she even care? I didn't want to make the mistake of trying to win her back. Not when I knew she was moving forward with her life. But deep down, I wondered if she'd see the difference in me. If she'd see that I wasn't the same guy who had walked away, full of doubt and fear. But no matter what happened with Sarah, I knew this. I wasn't doing this for her. I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me, and that was a feeling I hadn't had in a long time. A few months had passed. My life wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it was different. I had taken action, I had started making real changes, and I had stopped waiting for things to magically fall into place. I didn't have everything figured out, but I was on the right track. And then one day, out of nowhere, I saw her. I was walking through the park, enjoying the early autumn air, when I spotted her sitting on a bench, reading a book. My heart skipped a beat. I almost couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, here she was. Sarah. For a moment I froze. All the old feelings came rushing back: regret, longing, and yes, that familiar fear. What if I wasn't enough? What if everything I'd done to change didn't matter to her? But then I realized something. I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't the guy who walked away in fear. I wasn't the guy who held back from taking chances. I was the guy who had learned to stand tall, to take control of his life. And so, I walked over to her. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual, but my heart was still racing. She looked up, and for a moment, there was a hesitation in her eyes. It was like she was trying to read me, trying to figure out where I stood. "Hey," she said with a smile. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't either," I replied, sitting down beside her. We spent the next few hours talking, about everything and nothing. It wasn't like the first time we met, where everything felt new and uncertain. This time, it felt like two people who had lived through something and come out stronger on the other side. I could tell she was happy. And not just because of the guy she was with when I saw her.